This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, I am Sumit Agarwal and I welcome you all into this video 2 of Mule web series. So in the last video we talked about a REST API which was a simple REST API that was consuming the request from the client and was trying to log a hard-coded value and was returning a simple hard-coded text, right? Apart from that, we also saw how to install the Anypoint Studio in the machine, right? And also we need to tweak the Java path in one of the configuration files, right? We talked about it, and also I try to give a overview of like what exactly API is, right? And we'll be talking about all those things in a very detailed manner. This is just the beginning, right? In this video, I'm going to talk about how do we read the file, right? And we will try to read a CSV file, and then we will try to convert that into a JSON one, right? So what we'll do is we will put a file in our local directory that will be a CSV file, and then I will develop a Mule project which is going to read that CSV file and would do the transformation such that the output file which I write in another directory would be a JSON file, right? So in order to implement this, we should definitely have Anypoint Studio installed in our machine, and we should have sample CSV file. So in the interest of time, I already created a sample CSV file which might look something like this. So within my machine, in this directory, I have created a file with the name employee data. Let me show you this file. So this is a CSV file, a comma separated values, right, where we have a header as employee ID, employee name, location, and employee department. And there are a couple of records. We may have more also if required, right? And this is required to be converted in JSON. JSON is nothing but JavaScript object notation. That is another representation of the data which is very commonly used these days, right? That JSON format works more like a key value pair, right? So we will have a key and the values enclosed in double quotes. So we'll see how this is going to happen, right? So what I will do is I'll make a note of this directory structure because this will be pretty much required while reading the file in the Mule project. So I'll go back to the Anypoint Studio and let's start. We'll start with a new Mule project, right? I will name this as video 2 underscore read CSV file. Yep. And remaining things I keep default and I'll hit finish. See, there are two approaches when you want to read a file, right? One is the moment file is placed in that directory and your project is deployed, yeah, it will kind of poll in that directory structure, whatever we'll configure, and will look for a particular file. The moment that file is present, the file gets read. Another approach is when you want to read the file in the middle of the flow, right? When you explicitly want to trigger the read operation. So right now in this use case, I would go with a listen strategy. I mean, whenever we have a new or a updated file, right? That moment the file will be picked up implicitly by my Mule project. See, understand the difference. One is implicit read. So you have a kind of a poller which keeps on polling at a particular directory structure for a particular file. The moment that file is present, the file is implicitly read. Another approach is that you explicitly call and go and read that file from a particular directory structure. So right, so we'll see both in our video sessions, but in this particular session I'm going to talk about the use case where I want to poll for a particular file. So now we have to get the corresponding module. So right now you can see we have a core module, HTTP and sockets module. So right now to work with the files, we need another module called as file modules, right? So now I'll go to add modules, and here I should find another module, file. So I'll move it towards left in this palette, and you see file module gets added, and these are the operations you can perform. So if you observe here, there is a read which is like a sync read. Okay, so sync read is nothing but reading in the middle of the flow, and another is on new or updated file. So this is more like polling, right? Listening to a particular directory structure for a particular file. So I'll drag this and the moment I drag this into component palette, a flow automatically gets generated, and this component is placed within the flow, right? So here I need to configure this. So I'll start with say here. So there is an option called as working directory. So working directory basically represents a base path. If let's say you're reading multiple files from different directory structures, and if you have a common base path which might remain fixed, then you may use it or you may not use it. Up, it's up to you, right? So right now I don't want to use this in example. I would move ahead. So there here is a matcher, right? So I will choose the option edited line, and here I would like to give my details. So first there is a directory structure, right? So if you remember, I have already copied the directory structure. I will keep my directory structure over here, and then the name of the file. So what I'll quickly do is I'll copy the file name from here, right? It's always a good practice to do a copy paste instead of typing it manually. There are chances of making a mistake, and then you can configure different options here, right? So here there is something called as file name pattern. I will add it over here, that I'm looking for the employee data.csv, and after that you have options: min size, max size, uh, scheduling strategy, that how frequently you want to read. So let's say we want to read a file every 50,000 milliseconds. Okay, 50,000 milliseconds will mean somewhere around so one millisecond, or I mean 1 second is equal to thousand milliseconds, right? So what I will do is, let me keep it different, something like 60,000. Yeah, 60,000 would mean 60 seconds, which means almost 1 minute, right? So that is what I want to do, and there is an option auto delete. So if you want, once your file is read, right, then you can delete it if you want. Right now I want to keep it default. So once I read the file, right, I would just log it. I would log the payload which is being read, right? So I will I will write something like payload after read is hash payload. Yeah, this will help me to see what exactly is the content inside the payload once I read the file, right? And idea is that we need to convert it into JSON, right? And whenever you want to do some transformations, you have one of the core components called as transform message. So I'll add a transform message component, and what I can do is, this uses data weave, which is the transformation language in MuleSoft, right? And here I will just change the output. So these three uh, hyphens are the kind of segregators between header and the body, right? Anything on the top of that is header. So this represents, like, this is a data weave language, right? And the output format is JSON. And what I will do here is, here I will write payload, which means whatever payload is coming in, that I want to convert into JSON format, right? After that I will add another logger. Yeah, I'll add another logger. So I want to basically print the content or log the content after transformation. So here I might write payload after transformation is hash payload, and at the end, once this transformation is done, I want to write the file. So I'll choose file, and this time I will choose write operation, right? And where do I want to write? So this configuration might be same. Here I have to give the path. So what I will do is, I'll go to this is right now pointing to my workspace, so I don't want to write this into my workspace. I'll go to E, and here I might go to another folder called as Mule video series. Here there is a directory, and I will write employee data dot json. This is how I want my resultant file to look like. So I will save all the stuff. There are other configurations which you might be able to do, but right now I want to keep remaining things default, right? So this is how my mule flow currently looks like. I have a listener or a caller which is kind of going to read the file. The moment it is present in that directory structure, then I'm logging the content, right? And after that, I'm doing the transformation. Then again I log the content, which is the resultant of the transformation, and I write the file, right? Here in the configuration XML, you will see the resultant code which is getting generated, right? So what I can do is I'll close all the stuff and I can quickly go for the deployment of this particular code, right? So I'll right click here on this project and I will say run as Mule application. So if you go to the console, the Maven dependencies are being downloaded and your project is being deployed to the Mule runtime, right? So right now we are using Mule server 4.1.3 enterprise edition. Okay, we have community edition also available, so it's up to you which runtime you want to configure. Let's wait for this download to this deployment to finish, and once the deployment is done, we would see that we need not to trigger our flow. It is implicitly triggered, right? Because we have got a poller which is going to poll for the files from a directory structure, and the moment it finds a relevant file, your complete flow implicitly gets triggered. Yeah, so your process got deployed, and if you remember, the frequency we have kept is almost 1 minute. So here you can see the payload after read is this whole content is there after we read, and after transformation this is what we have. It says payload after transformation, yes. And you can see this is how your JSON looks like. So you have the resultant JSON, which is more like an array. Yeah, so this part I didn't copy, but definitely will have something like this. So this is like an array. This array consists of two entities, or kind of two employee objects, first one and the second one. As I told you that JSON representation is more like a key value pair. So this is your key and this is corresponding value, right? So it means our data got converted into JSON. Now it's a time to check for the file, whether any file got generated in that directory structure or not. So if you can observe, a JSON file got generated. Let me open that file and you can see here, this is how your JSON file looks like. So it means we have been successfully able to read a file from a particular directory structure and have been able to convert that file into a JSON file using a Mule project. So I hope you followed this video, and I would request you to go back and try this process. Yeah, and if you face any issue, you can reach out to me. Thanks for watching the video. Let's stay tuned with me for my next video on some different topic on MuleSoft. Thank you.